In today's video, we're breaking down the brand new Polygon Siskiu T series lineup. So if you've been looking at these bikes and trying to decide like which one of these is right for me, they got a T6, T7, T8, a T9, even that new T0. Have you guys seen that one yet? By the end of this video, my goal is to help you decide which one of these bikes is right for you based on your riding style and what you need out of a bike. So let's get into it. Woo! Yeah! Because these 5 bikes, they may look similar, but I can tell you they ride completely different. By the way, my name's Jared Hoff. I've been riding and reviewing these Polygon bikes for years. I've ridden everything from like the current T6, even some of the older T7, T8, T9s, and now got my hands on the T8, started riding and reviewing that bike as well. So I got a pretty good idea of the spec level on each one of these bikes, how it changes the way the bike performs, and which bike is perfect for you depending on your riding style and what you want out of a bike. And when I was thinking about this video, how to deliver it to you and really give you the most value, break this down in the simplest possible way, give us a really easy way to compare these bikes side to side, I thought, you know what? I have this chalkboard down in my basement and I could just write it out. Everything, all the models up top, T6, T7, T8, T9, T0, and then go over everything about these different models from the color, the suspension, the drivetrain, brakes, wheels, contact points, and especially that price, because we know that one's important. And by the end of this video, after having all that broke down, we'll easily be able to compare these bikes side by side. Then I'll give you guys my top pick for me and my riding style, the Hoff's top pick, right? So this is how this column is gonna go down. I'm gonna write down the winner, the one I pick out of all these. So like out of the color, I'll write down the model that I think has the best color. Out of the suspension, the model that has the best suspension, drivetrain, brakes, wheels, contact points, the best for the overall price, and then we'll pick right up here the very top winner for my choices for which bike I think is the overall best pick for me and my riding style. But do me a favor, at the end of this, you guys look at all these models and everything we've talked about and let me know which model is your favorite. Which one is your top pick? By the way, you guys, this is my new t-shirt lineup. So I've been doing some graphics, the Get Stoked, Go Ride, Have Fun on the front right there. And you can see Break Later, Fuck Fear on the back. So if you guys think this shirt is cool, if you're into it, I'm doing these through the Amazon Merch on Demand, which makes it super easy for you to order it, get the cheapest price, the fastest shipping, and easy returns if you order the wrong size or the wrong color or something. So I'll put links in the video description. Check out my merch if you want. I'm trying to make it less about the YouTube channel and more just like a badass shirt that any fellow mountain biker would want to wear, or the shirt that like I'd be stoked to wear. So check out the gear. I got more shirts on there, a hoodie as well that I've been working on, and more merch to come. But before we dive any deeper into these models, I need to cover something real quick because I've gotten a few questions on my videos about the new Siskiu lineup and people basically saying like, hey Jared, the price has gone up, but all they changed was like 0.5 degrees on the geometry and making that thing UDH. Is it really worth your money? Should I just buy that older model? But I can tell you, after getting this bike, taking a little bit closer look, there's some definite changes that you may not see on paper, some things I have to cover this because this was like a complete frame redesign. So let's go over real quick what you're getting with this new Polygon Siskiu lineup. Okay, so this is the Polygon Siskiu T8, the newer model. Let's use this real quick and show you what they changed on this complete frame overhaul. So everything just from the shape of the tubing, that's the first thing I noticed is this tubing is like flatter across the bottom, flatter on the sides, and then kind of angled on the top, almost like a pentagon style shape to it. I think it looks way more sleek, way more high end. To add to the high end look to it, they cleaned up the cable ports, the cable routing all throughout. So the cable routing right there at the top, all the way back to how the cable routing comes out of the chainstay right there. Way cleaner. Of course, on the back they have UDH capability right now, which does fix one of the big limitations of Polygon in the past, because now if you snap your derailleur hanger, you can get one of those at any of your local bike shops, and it opens up this bike in case you wanted to throw a SRAM transmission or something like that on there for future upgrades. Moving up, that just the whole rear triangle has been beefed up, so just a little bit stiffer rides just a little bit better. Same suspension platform, same single pivot, linkage driven suspension platform. Has this additional tool mount on the top right here, so you can mount like your tube or an on-bike tool right there. But one of the biggest updates they did to this year's lineup was changing out the wheels. See, in the past, I always complained about the super heavy, super wide entity wheels that came on these Polygon bikes. And this year they changed the wheels to be a lot lighter, have a 29mm internal width, and came paired with these dissector tires. So a lot faster rolling, a lot lighter tire and wheel setup, which that overall rolling rotational weight can make the biggest difference on your bike, the way it actually performs. So I just want to cover that real quick, because a lot more than just a universal derailleur hanger and 0.5 degrees on the geometry changed. This was really a complete overhaul, and Polygon did a lot of things to step this bike up from being just like a budget bike to being really kind of like a trail bike that could compete with some of those higher end models out there on the market. If you want me to do a more detailed breakdown comparing like the old versus the new Siskiu, I actually still have my old Polygon Siskiu T7, so I could do a side-by-side comparison of that T7 with the older frame and this T8 with like the newer frame to really give you a close side-by-side look. So drop a comment down below if you want me to do that more detailed comparison video, old versus new Siskiu. But now let's go ahead and get into the specific models. What are you getting for the T6, T7, T8, T9, and the new T0 that's pre-order only right now, but we're gonna take a look at that too. Which model is best for you? Which model would I choose? Let's get into it. Now I'll throw timestamps and have chapters down below so you could easily skip to the section you want if you just want to look at the T8 or T9, or if you want to skip back and forth. So got those timestamps down below. Feel free to skip back and forth, but let's go ahead and start getting into it, starting with this T6 and breaking down everything you get with this budget model right here. All right, so there goes the T6 right there. Let's go over everything you get, right? So for the color, you got that blue and that metallic green. I had mine, and the metallic green was pretty dang good looking. I think that blue is a solid color too. Definitely doesn't look cheap or budget at all. And remember, with that frame color, you're getting the same exact frame you get with any of the more expensive models. Same geometry and everything. For the suspension, definitely a more budget suspension. You got the Recon Silver RL fork, 140mm travel fork. Did I say that? 135mm of travel in the rear on this frame, and a 140mm fork. For the shock in the rear, you got the X Fusion O2 Pro rear shock. So definitely a more budget rear shock, but it'll get the job done. And on the rides that I did, I really didn't feel like it was holding me back. For the drivetrain, you got the Shimano Qs and only a 1x10 drivetrain. Now that is like a wider gear range. So in the climbs I did, I felt like it gave me a wide enough gear range to definitely handle those climbs, but it could limit you a little bit, and you'll see how it compares when we start stepping up in the lineup. Brakes, this is one of the things, you know, where one of the ways they really save money. Shimano MT200 2-piston brakes. They are hydraulic brakes. They do provide you good enough stopping power, but only 2 pistons, so if you really start to ride those longer, more aggressive downhill runs, you may feel these brakes limiting you just a little bit. Now for the wheels, same exact wheels as every lineup except for like the really high-end model. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. So we got Shimano hubs with the Polygon MT6 wheels, already talked about those a little bit, and Maxxis dissector tires. So a super fast rolling tire, nice light wheel set, good hubs with decent engagement, so a wheel set that's really not holding you back. Now for the contact points, you got the Polygon Expert, you know, bars and stem, link saddle and grips, and an X Fusion dropper. So definitely like some budget stuff, but to be honest, those are parts that usually upgrade anyways. Now when it comes to the price, sale price of $1,599.99, but I crossed that out because like I kind of hate that marketing bullshit they always hit you with, like $1,599.99. Like, why not just cut to the chase and call it $1,600, right? 1 penny, Really? So $1,600 is the price for that base model T6, and we'll see how that stacks up to the next models in the lineup when we get into this. So the T6 is definitely that base model, you know, that lowest entry point in the lineup. But the whole point of this bike is to try and keep the price down to give you that, you know, lowest possible price to get you out there on the trails riding and having fun. Now, a couple good things about this bike, like I said, it already has that frame, so you can easily upgrade this over time and make it just as good as any of these other bikes. But the bad thing about that is when you buy this T6, if you know that you're gonna want like a 12-speed drivetrain, 4-piston brakes, or a better fork, you know, or a better rear shock, then you might wanna look at just stepping up right off the line, because you're definitely gonna end up paying more. So who is this bike perfect for? I think the T6 is perfect for you if you're a brand new rider just getting into the sport. You know you wanna take riding seriously, but your skills need to progress a little bit more before you're even gonna need those higher end level parts. So this could be a good bike to buy, ride for a few seasons, upgrade over time. As your skills progress, you'll start to know what you want out of a bike. You'll start to know what upgrades you want, and you could upgrade this bike slowly over time to truly turn it into the perfect bike for you as your skills advance. But here goes where things start to really get interesting, because this next model in the lineup solves a couple of those major flaws with the T6 for just a little bit more. So let's write down everything about the T7 real quick, and then we'll go over that model. Okay, there goes the T7. So how does it compare, right? So for the colors, you go up from the T6 having that blue and that metallic green, up to the T7 having this red and this candy teal. Two really solid, really nice looking color options for the T7. Now when you move on to the suspension, you got the same Recon Silver RL fork up front with 140 millimeters of travel, but the rear shock, you step it up from kind of like a cheaper X Fusion rear shock to a RockShox Deluxe Select Plus rear shock. So a definite, you know, step up on the suspension game when it comes to the rear shock on the T7. But the drivetrain, that's where we really see things start to step up. You go up from that Shimano Q's 1x10 drivetrain, stepping up to a Shimano Dior 1x12. So now you get 12 gears on the back, and you get in the Shimano Dior, which is going to provide you excellent shifting, wide enough gear range, so really like a really good value, and probably as good of a drivetrain as any of us really need, let's be honest. We'll see, I'll talk about some of the step ups in drivetrain as we go along, but solid 1x12 drivetrain. Now when it comes to the brakes, once again, they fixed the issue here, right? Because 2-piston brakes, I talked about how that could limit you. Now on the T7, you get Shimano MT420 4-piston brakes on there. And then for the wheels, you get the same exact Shimano hubs, MT6 wheels with the dissector tires on there, the same contact points, so the Expert, Polygon Expert bars, stem, the Link saddle and grips, and the X Fusion dropper. And for the price, you're getting that for $2,000. I think they put like $1,999.99, but we're skipping that for the rest of this. We're gonna put the actual price that you're looking at. So around $2,000, which is a $400 difference between the T6 and the T7. So for $400, you're getting, you know, 4-piston brakes, you're getting a better rear shock, you're getting a 1x12 drivetrain, so definitely getting some upgraded parts and components. And for the T7, I think this is perfect for that guy who's looking to save a bit of money, definitely go with a more budget-friendly option, but somebody who's not a beginner level rider, somebody who knows they're already going to be pushing their limits and they're going to need things like a 1x12 drivetrain and those 4-piston brakes. So the T7, I call this your kind of frugal, best budget option for that person that's not really an entry-level rider. But stepping things up from the T7 to this T8 right here, that's where we really start to see a huge difference in the components that come on the bike. We really start to fix some of those big issues, things like that Recon Silver RL fork. So let's go ahead, I'll write down everything about the T8 real quick, and then we'll go over that, compare the two, and see how it's stacking up in this lineup so far. Okay, so for the T8, for the color right there, you got a Elion green and a charcoal. So the green has a really cool color where it's like you get it out in the light and it almost has like a holographic kind of like different color depending on how the light hits it and how you're looking at it. And then the charcoal color, like right here, you can see this charcoal that has kind of like this sparkle tint to it, which is the color that I got. And I think it's going to be really cool because you can basically, you know, put any color parts you want on this and kind of make the bike look how you want it to. So if your favorite color is like red or orange, green, whatever color you want, you can start to mix and match. And I think it's going to look good with this gray charcoal frame color right here. Now moving on to the suspension though, that's where we really start to see a step up. So you remember that Recon Silver RL fork we talked about, kind of budget entry-level fork? We move up to a Fox 34 Rhythm fork, 140 millimeters of travel. So higher end Fox fork and Fox rear shock, which is really gonna change the way this bike performs and rides. And I can tell you on the ride that I took on this T8, compared to the previous T7 and T6s I've rode with those cheaper suspension components on it, you can definitely feel the difference. This is a bike that even when you huck it and send it to flat off some jumps with that Fox performance, it's gonna handle just about everything you throw at it. Now moving up from the suspension into the drivetrain, once again it gets a step up with the Shimano SLX drivetrain. So 1x12 drivetrain, and then it's got the SLX derailleur on there, an SLX cassette as well. Now it does have a KMC chain on here and these Dior level cranks, but I can tell you the shifting on this has been so dang good with that SLX shifter on there. So super crisp shifting, and you're definitely getting an upgrade in shifting performance even compared to this Dior right here when you step up to the SLX. Now the brakes, it's got the same brakes, the same exact wheels with the same hubs, rims, and tire setup, and it's got the same contact points, except it has this physique saddle. And that's one of the things on the T6 when I rode it, is I really didn't like this Lynx saddle. It's just kind of a cheap saddle, but the physique saddle you can see right here is like, I don't know, for me, I felt like this was plenty comfortable enough, nice, wide enough, still looks pretty dang good as well. So I like this physique saddle. I think that's a worthy upgrade. And then when you get down to the dropper as well, the dropper, instead of an X Fusion dropper, you get a Trans X dropper. So a step up in the dropper's performance, longevity, and just overall servicing of this is going to be just a little bit better. And getting down to the price, you can see you're jumping up from $2,000 to $2,500. So a $500 price difference. Now, $2,500, this is definitely where you're starting to get into that, hey baby, can I spend this amount of money out of the bank account? And you really start to have to think about that, because that's not like a small chunk of change. I understand that, you know, but what you're getting for just $500 more with getting that complete upgrade in suspension, upgrade in drivetrains, upgrade in the saddle and the dropper as well, I think it's well worth that $500 increase. But let's get the rest of these out here. Let's get the T9 and the T0 down, because that T9, you definitely get a step up in parts when it gets to that model. And that's a bike for more advanced riders. This could be the perfect bike for you. And that T0, this is gonna be a bike that when you take a look at it, some of you are just gonna have to have. So let's go ahead and cover the T9 real quick, and then the T0, and then we'll take a look at all these bikes once again, and I'll give you my top pick for which bike wins in each category. Okay, the T9. Can we just do something different on this one? Can we start the price down here? So the price difference between the T8 and the T9 is only $300. Now I get it, you're getting up into that $2,800 range, so you're definitely starting to push, you know, into that kind of like more expensive, you know, budget option for some of you guys out there. But for just $300 more, like look at what you're getting. So, and the biggest difference really is the suspension. But let's start with the color. Like first of all, this bright red color on the T9 I think is really cool, but this is one of the things that Polygon tends to do, and something I kind of wish they wouldn't, is when you jump up from that T8 to the T9, you only get one color option instead of two. And bright red, it might not be for everybody. So I really wish that they would keep maybe like a metallic gray or something, and the T9 as well, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about that bright red right there, all right? So bright red, only one color option. That could be a downside. But the suspension, a definite step up in the suspension, because you go up from a Fox 34 rhythm fork and a Fox float performance rear shock up to a Fox 36 fork. So 36 mil stanchions on that 140 fork. That's going to make it a lot stiffer and perform a lot better, especially as you start to push your skills, progress, and ride more advanced trails. Then for the shock, the Fox Float X rear shock. So that's going to give you a rear shock that has a piggyback on there, a lot more volume. It's going to handle those rowdier, longer downhill runs. Definitely if you're the type of person that likes to go ride bike parks during the summer, then this rear shock is going to make a huge difference. Although I will point out real quick, if you're more XC oriented, or if you're a guy that just really likes to put in a lot of miles and you're not riding as aggressive of trails, then the 34 fork and the shock without the piggyback is going to be a little bit lighter and still probably give you good enough performance. But for me, this is definitely a step up when it comes to the suspension. Now the drivetrain on here, you get kind of like a Frankenstein of a drivetrain, although it's all Shimano, so it's still going to shift really good. But you get an SLX derailleur, an XT shifter, Dior level cranks, and a Dior cassette, but you get a Shimano chain. And that's one thing I forgot to mention on these other models right here, you're getting a KMC chain on these. So a little bit better chain, which is gonna last longer and make the bike shift just like a little bit better. So stepping up from the Dior to the SLX derailleur, and then the XT shifter, actually, the XT shifter is gonna make it shift a lot better, because if you've ever done, ever stepped it up from a Dior SLX to an XT shifter, XT gives you just way more precise, crisp shifting and a little bit faster shifting with that XT shifter on there. And then on the brakes, you're also going to step up on brakes with, now you get moving up from the MT420 4-piston brakes, you moving up to the Shimano Dior, so the M6100 4-piston brakes, and then the rotors. You're getting a step up in rotors from the RT64 rotors you get on the T9, and on the T8 you only got the RT54 rotors. Now I can't tell you, I've never done actually back-to-back comparisons between a RT54 and a RT64 rotor, but I can tell you in the past I've done just simple rotor upgrades to bikes, and by just upgrading the rotors you can greatly enhance the braking capability of your bike. So an upgrade in rotors right there. Now let's get into the wheels, right? Because you remember on the T8 right here, we had Shimano hubs, we had MT6 rims and dissector tires front and rear. A pretty good wheel setup. But the T9, it definitely steps it up and moves a little bit more into that gravity focused rider, because you get a step up in the hubs. So the Shimano hubs that came on the previous models were MT400 hub. Now you get a TC500 hub, just a little bit better, higher engagement, a little bit better performing hub. And then the same rims, but on the tires, you get a dissector in the rear and a DHF tire up front. So a tire up front that's got a lot more grip, that's going to be a lot better for those steeper, gnarlier, downhill, faster hitting runs, for those more, like I said, gravity focused riders. And I really think that DHF up front pairs well with the fact that it's a Fox 36 fork. So the type of fork and the type of front tire for that person that's really kind of pushing this bike to its limits. And then when you talk about the contact points, moving up on the contact points, so Polygon Expert still, some of the components that are on there, physique saddle, same physique saddle. And actually I realized I messed up on this, because the T8, I think the T8 still comes with the X Fusion dropper, and the T9 is where you move up to this Trans X dropper. Somebody go ahead and fact check me, hop on the website there, but I think the T9 is where you get that step up in the dropper post. So all of that you're getting, increased suspension, huge increase in suspension, better shifting, better braking power with a little bit better rotors, and tires that are definitely a little bit more capable, you're getting for just $300 more. So the T9, who is this bike perfect for? I think the T9 is for that rider who's already more advanced. You're still looking to get a decent price, but you want a bike that you're not gonna have to upgrade. Right out of the box, you're gonna get this bike, like maybe you throw your favorite grips or pedals on there, but other than that, this is a bike for that rider that's a more advanced rider. They're already pushing their limits. They want a bike for a good price that's gonna be able to handle every trail that they're already riding. And the only real downside to this T9 is that it isn't quite good and definitely doesn't look as good. I don't know, you be the judge, but in my opinion, doesn't look as good as the final model in the lineup, the pre-order only T0. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. Okay, so for the T0, only comes in one color, right? But that color is that silver, what I'm calling like a silver fade. So come on, raw metal color, like that bike looks amazing, especially when you pair it with the suspension that comes on that bike. So Fox Factory 36 with those orange lowers. My very favorite fork that I've ever owned, that I've ever actually seen. I love the way that fork looks, especially when it pair it with the Fox Float X Factory, so that Kashima rear shock. Is that suspension overkill? Yes. Do you need it? No, probably not. You could just get a Performance Elite, and you know, Fox Performance Elite is gonna give you the same exact damper, same exact performance. But does it look amazing on this bike? Hell fucking yeah, bro. Definitely looks amazing. And that's, you know, the reason why some people are gonna have to have this bike right here. Now, when you move on to the drivetrain, you got the Shimano, full Shimano XT drivetrain, so premium level shifting, never gonna need any better than that. Now, some people will say there's XTR, but in my opinion, you don't really need XTR. XT is that premium level. XTR is a little bit lighter, but when you talk about shifting performance, XT doesn't really get much better than that. Now moving on to the brakes, you see Shimano XT brakes with those Ice Tech rotors. So the best quality brakes and rotors going to give you that stopping power for days. Stop, you know, as good as you could possibly want. Ride the steepest trails you could possibly want. Push your limits and know that those brakes are never going to fail you, at least in my experience, you know. Shimano XT brakes, next level performance. You got Shimano XT hubs now. So the best, you know, level Shimano hubs on there. And then you got the MT9 rims. Now, I don't have a lot of experience and I can't find a lot online, MT6 versus MT9, but I'm assuming MT9 or maybe just a little bit lighter, a little bit higher end rim. I don't think they're carbon. I don't know, let me know if you guys know anything, the difference between the MT6 and MT9. Higher end rims, same tires, Dissector DHF tires, and then the same exact contact points when it comes to the Polygon Expert, you know, stem, bar combo, physique saddle, Trans X dropper. Okay, but here's the kicker right here, the price, right? The price on this T0 is where it's really gonna get you, right? Because the price on this T0 right now is $3,999.99. So basically like $4,000 for that. So now we're definitely getting out of the budget bike range and starting to get into a way more pricey bike here at that price point. And that is $1,200 more. $1,200 more than the T9. So what are you getting for that $1,200? And is it actually worth it? That would kind of be my sticking point with the T0 compared to the T9, right? You're getting a better color, definitely. You're getting higher end suspension. So this is the Fox 36 Performance, not the Performance Elite. So you're gonna get a better damper with this. And you're gonna get more adjustability with the high and low speed rebound and high and low speed compression as well. So a little bit better suspension, but is it worth $1,200 more? Do you really need it? I don't know, man. I think this T0 is really where you really start to get into that kind of like too expensive. It kind of pushes way past that Goldilocks, that like perfect sweet spot zone, and gets into the I'm kind of spending money just to flex, or maybe I'm like racing and I really need that top level performance, or maybe I'm just really pushing my limits and I need to know that the bike is never gonna fail me, so it just gives me that like supreme confidence out there on the trails. But the T0, definitely the most expensive build. Now let's go ahead and we'll get into my top pick for each category and my overall top pick. And then I'll give a chance for you guys to leave a comment down below and let me know, out of all these models, which one was your top pick? Okay, so starting with the color, going through all these different colors. I mean, you gotta give the top color choice to that silver fade with the T0. I mean, what do you guys think? I don't know. For me, T0 definitely takes the win when it comes to the color choice. That silver fade, anything with like a raw metal look, is just like, I've always loved that in a bike. So T0 gets the color, right? Now, when it comes to the suspension, okay, the suspension on here is where I really have to go with like, not just like what's the best suspension, because the best suspension is obvious, right? But like, what's the best value for your money? When you're an average rider, when you're just that, you know, for 95% of us out there, like, what suspension do you actually need, and which suspension wins here as far as being like the best bang for your buck? And I'm kind of pointing at it right now because for me, I really think for me with a 135 to 140 trail bike, for me it's the T8, right? I really think the T8 for me ticks the box when it comes to that suspension. Now, let me clean up that 8 a little bit. Now, it could easily be the T9 if you're already riding like way more advanced trails, but I still think, you know, we'll see as I test this T8 a little bit more, but I think the T8 is going to give me everything that I need. So for Hoff's top pick, for me, the T8 wins in the suspension category. Now let's move on to drivetrain, all right? Shimano Qs, yep, that's not going to be good enough with being 1x10 for the T6. And then we look into, you know, the T7, T8, T9. So T7 being the Shimano Dior 1x12 pretty much gives you everything you would need. But I have noticed quite a step up in performance in shifting when you move up to that SLX. And for me, SLX has really always been that sweet spot where you're not overpaying, but you're getting like some really good performance. So for me, once again, the T8 is going to win the Hoff's top pick when it comes to the drivetrain with that SLX shifting. Now you could say the T9 if you're somebody looking for the really good shifting, and of course the T0 gives you that premium level, but at the price you're paying, that's what I'm really looking at as like the best bang for your buck. T8 wins it for me. Now moving on to the brakes. So the brakes, yep, I need more than 2 piston. MT420 brakes, they work good enough. I would rather have like Shimano Dior. So for me, I'm gonna say the T9 gets it for the brakes. Now let's move on to the wheels. So we're talking about the hubs, the rims, the tires, like the full package deal. So for me, I'm kind of somewhere in between the T8 and the T9. You see, the T9 has the setup that I'm probably not going to need to change. It's got a super fast rear tire and a nice grippy front tire, which is what I like when it comes to a tire setup. And it's also got a slightly upgraded hub, which could give you a little bit better engagement. But one thing about the T8 that's kind of cool is like it's got dissectors front and rear. So even if you're going to upgrade your front tire, now you just keep that dissector tire and you got an extra tire for the back. For when you wear through those tires, you have another back tire. So that front tire is not a total waste. So T8, T9. I think I'm gonna have to go with the T9 on this just because it comes with the upgraded hubs, and I think that little bit better engagement, especially the fact that you're only paying $300 more and you're getting some of the other stuff. I think T9 is gonna win it when it comes to the wheels for me. Okay, contact points. Now we're talking about, you know, that bar stem combo, those grips, you know, that saddle, the dropper post, right? So we started moving up, and when we got to about the T8, that's where I finally started to get to a saddle that I liked. And you can't go with a bad saddle for too many rides. So I think if I was to get a T7 or a T6, I'd probably have to upgrade that saddle like immediately. So neither those two, like they can't win the contact points. But then when you hopped up from the T8 to the T9, that's when you got an upgraded dropper post. At least I think that's an upgrade, right? I haven't done a specific test X Fusion versus Trans X, but we'll just say right here that we'll give it to the T9 because in my experience, it's better to get just a little bit higher end dropper post when it comes to serviceability and longevity, and just getting a dropper post is not going to start to act up on you over time. All right, so far, what are we looking at, folks? So we got the T0 winning it for the color, T8 for the suspension and the drivetrain, T9 brakes, wheels, and contact points. Oh man, is T9 gonna take it here? We got to get to the price, right? Because let's face it, like the price, that could be the deal breaker. That could be like the biggest factor out of all of this, right? That could be your deciding point. And remember, every single price point, you're getting the same exact frame with that updated geo, that complete redesign. So the price, which bike is gonna win here, right? You could say that the T6 wins because it's the absolute cheapest. But remember, for that cheap price, you're probably gonna end up having to spend a bit more money over time to upgrade it. The T7's in the same boat. You're gonna end up having to probably upgrade that fork at least, or a couple of those other parts. The T8, I think, is really when you start to get into that price point to where you're getting a bike that at $2,500, yes, it's a bit more, you know, what is that, like $900 more than the price of the T6 right there, but you're starting to get a bike that you're really not gonna have to do any upgrades for at least a season or two, maybe ever, depending on the trails you ride and your skill level. So for me, T8 definitely takes it for the price. And so that puts, you know, the T8 and the T9 in a dead tie. But for me, if I'm looking at this, the fact that if I'm already gonna pay $2,500 for a T8, for me, I think it's worth it just to hop up $300 more to get the T9, unless you hate that bright red. But that's just me, that's Hoff's top pick. Now it's time for you to drop your comment down below. Let me know, which one of these bikes would you choose? Which one is your top pick? Now, if you guys are interested in grabbing any one of these bikes, I do have affiliate links down there in the video description. Those links, they don't cost you anything more, and they help me continue to make more videos like this. But more importantly, I need you guys to let me know, like, did you appreciate this style video? If you made it this far, I'm assuming you did, but like, do you think I should do more videos like this in the future? I think this gave us a really clean, easy way to be able to compare these bikes and look at them like back to back, and hopefully you guys got some value out of it. If you think you did, please share this with a friend. But until next time, remember, no matter which bike you choose, it's all about getting stoked, going riding, and having some fun, people.